No, I don't think we can talk about the Caribbean without mentioning the Dominican Republic. It's a major tourist destination with the largest economy and even the highest mountain in all of the island countries in the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic is a very, very special place in Latin America. And I'm not only saying this because we can find amazing places such as Punta Cana, Bayahibe, or Puerto Plata here, among many, many others. I'm also saying it because this was the very first place where Christopher Columbus's men settled when America was discovered in 1492. Yep, it's true, for good or ill, everything started here. This is where Latin America, as we know it, began. Its capital, Santo Domingo, was the first modern city on the entire American continent. Here the first cathedral, the first university, and the first hospital were built. But yes, it's true. If we associate the Dominican Republic with anything, it's gonna be tourism.
The Sun Revolution.
This is by far the country's best face, and not for nothing. Folks, the Dominican Republic, it's trendy. Thanks to its 1,000 miles of coastline, more than 250 miles of amazing Caribbean beaches, its golf courses, and huge all-inclusive resorts, the country is experiencing an impressive tourist boom. Of course, this story has been developing for a while. See, during the 1940s, the then plenipotentiary dictator of the islands, General Rafael Trujillo, gave the order to encourage tourism. This was probably done with the intention of filling his pockets. That's how the Malecon de Santo Domingo and the first luxury hotel in the city, the Hotel Harawa, opened in 1944. Years later, in 1968, the first legislation that considered tourism development to be of national interest was approved. So, as you can see, an emphasis on tourism, not exactly new. But in recent years, it has completely taken off. In 2017, the Dominican Republic, a country with just over 10 million inhabitants, managed to attract more than 7 million tourists. It grew so quickly that the country is expected to overcome the 10 million international tourists barrier in no more than 3 years. And of course, as you can imagine, all of this has got consequences. In the last 5 years, foreign direct investment in the tourism sector has grown by more than 500%. It's multiplied by 6 times. Nowadays, the Dominican Republic has more than 80,000 hotel rooms, and this number, it just doesn't stop growing.
To give you an idea, to accommodate all these visitors, in 2017, Dominican hotels opened 8,366 new rooms, and an additional 15,000 are under construction. Danilo Medina, president of the Dominican Republic.
The result? Tourism is already the island's main economic activity, and if we take both the wealth this generates directly and indirectly into account, it means that 1 out of every 4 pesos generated by the economy are from tourism. We could say that the Dominican Republic has discovered and is beginning to exploit its peculiar type of oil. And the truth is that in this area, it's almost all good news. Check out one of their latest achievements, which happened in exchange for breaking with Taiwan.
The People's Republic of China is opening up to Dominican tourism. The Chinese authorities have declared the Dominican Republic a tourist destination for all its citizens.
Of course, just a moment, because that's not it. Folks, the Dominican Republic has got a different face. Because here in this country, we can find a lot of light, but we can also find a lot of shadows that we commonly see today in Latin America. So let's take a look at that.
The other face.
The Dominican Republic has achieved one of the highest growth rates in Latin America and the Caribbean in the last 25 years. This strong performance has actually meant achieving a higher purchasing power parity, as well as one of the 10 highest per capita incomes in all of Latin America. At almost $17,000, the Dominican Republic is paired with Costa Rica and well above countries such as Peru, Colombia, or Ecuador. But hold on a second, because that's not the whole story here. In spite of everything, 32% of all Dominicans, that is 1 in every 3 people, live below the poverty line. The average life expectancy barely exceeds 70, and infant mortality is almost 5 times higher than in developed countries. That may explain why we can find 1.5 million Dominicans in the United States, and why, after tourism, remittances are the second largest source of wealth. But having said that, I think the question we can all ask ourselves is, well, how can such a paradise not take off? Well, folks, the answer is that this Caribbean land has many of the evils that, unfortunately, are all over Latin America. Yeah, the continent's modern history, it began here in 1492. Now, 526 years later, we can find a good reflection of the best and worst in Latin America in this exact same place. But delving into this matter, the first great point of darkness we can find is the stubborn persistence in keeping policies that have repeatedly been shown not to work, an issue that seems to reign in this region of the world. For example, in matters of informal work, irregular employment, which is a serious problem that has spread throughout the region. See, the workers who are exposed to the situation, to informality, work under more precarious conditions with greater instability, as well as having problems obtaining financing, whether that's to buy a house, invest in a business, or properly educate their children, and of course they have lower wages. I mean, this is pretty obvious because a company will invest less money in an employee who's hired irregularly. But this is also a problem for the government, for example, when it comes to collect taxes. Well, in the Dominican Republic, informal employment affects 6 out of every 10 workers. In this country, that number is not decreasing, it's growing. In 2017, for example, formal jobs were only created in the public sector. And, well, what does this info tell us? Well, this is that formal hiring involves many barriers and many burdens. These can be bureaucracy, taxes, outdated regulations. These basically mean that people have to set up and pay taxes before they even make a single dollar. And all that, logically, makes it difficult for private economies to create quality jobs. So with this data in hand, I think it would make sense to say, well, hey, we need a boost in formal hiring. Well, what's not working? But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. The same goes for commercial policy. You see, in a country with a small local market, as is precisely the Dominican Republic's case, the foreign sector is absolutely essential. This seems pretty obvious, right? Well, in this country, we can basically find 2 different situations. On the one hand, there's the free zones, where the companies installed have favorable conditions, both regulatory and fiscal, which they provide in exchange for basically only working in exports while meeting certain criteria and being approved by the government. On the other hand, there are the more normal companies, which they're the vast majority. Well, more than half of all exports come from the free zones, and additionally, in recent years, exports from these places have grown on average 5% every year. But exports from common Dominican companies, well, check this out. So upon seeing this, the question I ask myself is, if the free zones work, well, why not extend their benefits to the rest of the country so that Dominican companies can become more competitive? Well, unfortunately, that's not going to happen either. But then there's the issues of the deficit, public spending, and debt, which, in spite of the great number of bad experiences, continues to be a vice of many Latin American countries. Here, the Dominican Republic is also not an exception. Since 1990, public spending in the Dominican Republic has multiplied by 18. Here, public deficit, it's almost a tradition. Now, just hold on for a moment, because you might be wondering now, well, Simon, aren't we talking about a country that's coming out of poverty? I mean, there's lots to do. There's infrastructure that needs to be created. There's ports, airports, roads. They all need to be built so that this country can grow. But do you know what type of expenditure grows this the most? And no, it's not public investment. It's actually current expenditure, which has multiplied by almost 30 since 1990. And of course, expenses have to be paid, partly with more taxes, which slows down the creation of formal jobs and investment, and, well, partly with debt. Check out what's happening with the Dominican debt, with the debt and interest, because of course debt has interest. Indeed, almost 1/4 of governmental spending goes towards paying interest. That's the 3rd largest figure in all of Latin America, and it won't stop growing. Well, despite the tourism sector's takeoff, this constant stubbornness with policies that don't work explains why Dominicans have so many problems and why there is still so much poverty in this country. I mean, check out how this country ranks in the Global Competitiveness Index. And what about politicians? Are they involved in other things? And listen up, because the shadows, they don't end here. There's a lot more.
Suspicions.
Folks, the Dominican Republic is a fantastic country and it probably has a promising future. And when it manages to take that big step, it really will be like a paradise. Think about it. Good weather, good beaches, and money. Who could possibly resist? However, today the Dominican Republic has two other very important problems that may be stopping the country from taking off, and one of those is corruption.
The Dominican Republic is among the 50 most corrupt countries, according to Transparency International.
You heard that right. The Dominican Republic is considered one of the most corrupt countries in the world. According to Transparency International's ranking, only Venezuela, Haiti, Guatemala, and Nicaragua are in a worse situation in Latin America. Here, corruption at all levels is very common. Suspects range from the current socialist president, Danilo Medina, who is accused of having financed his electoral campaign with bribes, to the police themselves. In fact, it was in the Dominican Republic that the construction company Odebrecht installed its coordination center for the bribes that it paid internationally in exchange for contracts. And of course, many of these bribes remained there, almost $100 million. As far as we know, these were received by politicians and officials in exchange for concessions, work awards, and public contracts. But unfortunately, that's not all. The other problem, which is growing, is drug trafficking. The Dominican Republic is considered one of the most important bridge countries and narcotics distribution centers by the United States.
Drug traffickers have a problem exporting drugs from Venezuela. There are few commercial flights, little container shipping, no tourists, and a collapsed fishing sector. But the Dominican Republic, 1,400 kilometers away, has it all.
In fact, according to the DEA and the European intelligence services, nowadays the Dominican Republic is one of the main transit countries for narcotics that go to the United States and the most frequent for cocaine shipments coming to Europe. And of course, this is an important issue, but that's something we're going to talk about another day. In any case, dear viewer, let's be absolutely clear. There are problems that unfortunately are common in the entire region. The Dominican Republic has achieved a lot in recent decades. It's certainly a fantastic place and it has a promising future. In this video, we just wanted to show you some of the reasons why this country is not doing as well as it should. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please do hit that like button if you did, and don't forget to subscribe for brand new videos. Also, don't forget to check out our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. They provided the vocals in this episode that were not mine. Also, this channel, it's made possible because of Patreon and our patrons on Patreon. Please consider joining them and supporting our mission of providing independent political coverage. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.